Welcome, everyone. Today is February 11th, 2017. This is MogTalk. If you guys are unfamiliar with MogTalk, it is a show where we discuss anything from Final Fantasy XIV Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing to the community outside of Final Fantasy XIV, which is the focus of today's show. I brought on two amazing guests here, two of the biggest community members, I think, that's behind the scenes of stuff that you guys use every single day. Let me introduce them. First, I'm going to start with Reseph here. Reseph, do you mind going ahead and just telling everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. This is Reseph from Reddit. I moderate the Final Fantasy XIV and 11 subreddits.
Awesome. And then we have our next guest, Fusion here. Fusion, do you mind telling everyone kind of what you do?
Yes, I am the content and podcast producer over at Gamer Escape. We have Aetheryte Radio, our podcast. We also run the Final Fantasy XIV wiki.
Awesome. These guys pretty much, I'm sure if you play Final Fantasy XIV, the things that they are behind the scenes of whatever, you guys have used it. If you guys have not used the Reddit, then you guys are absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if I could even survive without Reddit these days. If you use the internet at all, you're using Reddit in some form or fashion. And if you ever need information on where nodes are or anything else, I'm absolutely certain you guys have traveled into Gamer Escape, just simply by Googling information about Final Fantasy XIV. Okay, so today's show, I kind of want to discuss a couple of different things. First, I want to go into details about what you guys do and how you manage it. And I also want to go into details about the Final Fantasy XIV community in general. And you guys have your own experience, your own kind of perspective on the Final Fantasy XIV community. But I hope you guys enjoy today's show. It's not a rating show. I know you guys sometimes want to hear about rating, but that's all right. You know, let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about rating here. Fusion, what's your rating experience? How you doing, dude?
I was running A11S yesterday for like 2.5 hours, and it was just horrible. Absolutely horrible.
All right, what's your favorite?
I cried at the end.
How far did you get?
We got down to like the right towards the end. So we're getting there. I think it's the Dragoon in me that just sees all these circles and it's like, oh, I stand in that, right? But we're doing all right.
Yeah, 11 I think is kind of like the A3, the mild A3.
Well, it's funny too because before I just got into this group last week, we did Zurvan EX.
Uh-huh.
Prior to this, my last rated group was Twintania. So they're like, we need people. I'm like, well, if you need help, like, I wouldn't mind trying. But we ended up beating Zurvan pretty quick. So, I mean, we're getting there.
Did you guys skip Soar?
We did skip Soar. Yes. We did skip Soar. So I can't be that bad, right?
Okay. Good enough. As long as you bring the crit and the piercing damage, you're good, dude. That's all you gotta do as a Dragoon, man. All right. Reseph, come on, man. What about your rating experience this tier?
This year. Well, I started a static for Final Coil, and we went through Final Coil and parts of Midas and Gordius.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a few people left in the static currently, so we haven't run anything for a creator.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gone through Final Coil and parts of Gordius and Midas. We were doing Gordius, and then Midas came out because I started late. So we just went right to Midas before we finished Gordius.
Nice. Our group is actually working. So we went through and we did the whole clear this tier, A12S and everything this tier, but we never cleared A8S. Last night we went to go do A8S with Midas, and we're like, this is the highlight right now of all the rating we've done is going back and doing 270 Midas 8S because it's so ridiculously insane, even with higher gear. Because you start doing these pushes you shouldn't be doing, and you wipe the entire group, and it's wonderful. All right, so let's get into our topic a little bit, and I kind of want to go first kind of into Reddit, and, Fusion, you could kind of interject wherever you want during this conversation. I know you aren't behind the scenes with the Reddit itself. I like saying the Reddit. Does that sound like saying the Walmart or the Target? I mean, does that sound like really bad? The subreddit. That sounds better, right? The subreddit? Maybe.
Sure.
Okay. I want to discuss a little bit about your experience with that, Reseph. And then after we do that, we'll go in kind of Gamerscape here. First, I kind of want to know, you don't just run the Final Fantasy XIV one, you run the Final Fantasy XI one. as well, correct?
Yeah, I actually started. I created that before the 14. So
Right.
that was like 8 years ago, and then I created the 14 right before 1.0 alpha, I think, came out.
So, what inspires you to like even think about doing that? Were you just like, I'm going to get it first, or are you just like, you just have the interest in making a community around that?
It's parts of both. So for 11, it was sort of like, well, I love 11. There's no subreddit. Created a subreddit. But my background, I developed MUDs in the background, multi-user dimensions, before MMOs were a thing. So I
Oh,
developed
nice.
and I ran a MUD for, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years or so. So part of running a MUD is managing a community as well. So it wasn't something I was planning on growing, but I mean, that's what it turned into. For 14, that's what it turned into. For 11, it was, just a steady growth. Creating the 11 subreddit 8 years ago, not the best idea because you had all these other sites out there that were huge. So it's
Right.
like, why would we go here? But now it's grown.
That's kind of when Reddit was in its infancy too, right? It wasn't like too huge about 8 years ago.
Yeah. 8 years ago would probably be a lot of programmers and just people who just found Reddit as a, like a little community. Yeah.
Nice. So I'm actually curious because you sparked a question here. MUDs. Not a lot of people have any clue what a MUD is. I haven't heard that actually said in a while. So MUDs were like really popular before, like I guess MMOs, and they're not really that big anymore, right?
They're still around. Some of the bigger sites like the MUD Connector and top MUD sites are big communities. They're still around, but yeah, I mean they're people still play them. But I mean MMOs came out, EverQuest came out, and everybody was like, oh man, EverQuest, and bam.
Yeah, over with. Oh my god. I just remember that it brought back like visions of playing Duke Nukem and dialing into people's IPs through dial-up to play multiplayer Duke Nukem. Oh my god. I'm too old, dude. All right. Let me get out of this before I start feeling bad. So far, when you created Final Fantasy XI, the subreddit for Final Fantasy XI.
Oh my god, you made the game.
Yeah,
Holy
so
crap.
fucking
man.
best.
I had no idea.
Why? Okay, so what were like the initial challenges to that subreddit? I mean, that's again when Reddit was not really a big deal at that point. Could you just easily get people into that subreddit, or was it just like 2 or 3 people posting stuff?
This is for 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11 really the toughest part was getting people to see that there was a subreddit for it because everybody was on, BG and everybody was on Alakazam and maybe the FFXIV forums, I think. So I don't know, I just kept pushing forward and just stuck around and posted some posts and people were here and there, and then over 5 years people started migrating there a little bit.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, it's kind of like the same deal, I think, and this might not be a great comparison, but this is the comparison I've thought of, is when Twitch was basically Justin TV back in the day. And, there's just some people out there streaming, and it wasn't like a huge thing, just people were kind of getting into it. Even before Justin TV, I think some people were kind of going in there and doing stuff with video games, and they were just there. And eventually the site blew up, and they blew up too. And I mean, a lot of places in Reddit blew up because Reddit, of course, did its whole thing, and it became a huge explosion of information. How is your experience compared to that going into Final Fantasy XIV subreddit, though?
It's close to the same, but at least there were no communities, really major communities for 14, aside from the 11 ones that would be sort of the same community. So, but it was the same thing because 1.0 was 1.0. It didn't explode.
Right.
We had people here and there. We had posters. We had dedicated posters. But my biggest work was pushing the community, pushing to see people come to the community. And that was my biggest work, was just trying to get people to realize that existed for 3 years while 1.0 was out.
So, I guess another question is, when 1.0 exploded and a meteor fell on it, how is the, I guess, life of that subreddit when there's a whole year of no one really playing the game?
I don't think it changed so much. There's some people still around just posting, but as soon as I think some pictures came out, and as soon as 2.0 beta or alpha or beta came out, it's just everything exploded from there. That was when everything just exploded.
I gotcha. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I can't even, begin? So I occasionally I go to Reddit. I try to post and I try to be a part of Reddit when I can, and like do various other things. Sometimes when you go to Reddit though, you start to feel, and don't take this the wrong way, sometimes you start to feel sick, and you're like, it's with any kind of Reddit. Just people with anonymity on the internet posting random crap can lead to some really bad stuff. So do you right now have any regrets at all creating this subreddit? Like having to go through it? Do you go through this every single day and you like go through all the posts and you find people that you need to like say, hey, no, you need to go to a different subreddit and so on?
No regrets. I mean, it's something you see on the internet all the time. At this point, after so see, A Realm Reborn has been out for what, 4 years now, I think, or 3 years ish. So it's been just sort of just taking care of that stuff over those time and periods, and you just get the feel for it's just another day.
Yeah.
So no regrets. It's just sort of like, oh, this guy is creating another account to get around a ban because he was being nasty or something like that, and it's just like, oh, another person.
Just another asshole.
That's a good answer. It's not like, no, nothing's not really changed. I mean, I drink a lot more now, but other than that.
I mean, if I had regrets or I hated it, I wouldn't be a moderator, or I'd be, I post in subreddit every day. I'm there, I'm posting, I'm reading, so.
Yeah. Well, I think like one of the interesting bits about running the subreddit too is you don't really get much out of running it, right? I mean, you just kind of, you're there and you run the subreddit. There's not much benefit out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I have family members who say, you spend all this time, are you going to get paid for it? And it's like, no.
No, it's just part of it. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, and I mean, I can understand and feel that. Spending like tons of hours putting the, kind of working on this. I don't know if Reddit's a passion project for you. Would you declare it as a passion project or just like something you do?
Yeah, it's definitely a passion project. If we talked about people thinking about creating a community, one of the things that I tell people is if you're going to create a community, make sure you have passion for it, because that's what makes you last. Like Gamer Escape, I'm sure you guys have, this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean,
forever.
We were talking about the downtime of the game between 1.0 and 2.0. That hit us real hard.
Yeah.
One of my, it's kind of sad that I think it's so funny to talk about it, but like we were at E3 like that year in between, and me and our other our head mod runner of the site, Yahoo, we were like, okay, so we can keep the site up for another month, or we can get lunch. I'm like, I'm kind of hungry, man. Like, I think we should eat. But yeah, it was real rough for us. I mean, running a wiki, a big information site about a game when there is no game currently running, like that was rough. We were in the red for a long time because of that.
And yeah, and that sucks, man. Like, and to be honest, I didn't even really get involved in the Final Fantasy 14 until 2.2. Right before that, I started to get more involved and level up, and I got up to, I think, the 60 right before 2.2 came out. Or not 60, sorry, that would have been really impressive. 50 right before 2.2 came out, and got into raiding and everything else. And I don't know, I just feel like maybe I'll ask you this, Fusion. As soon as like the expansion hit, did you guys kind of explode and come back? It's considered an expansion, right? Yeah.
We came back pretty good. I mean, it was a lot of people that knew we were around, but because the game wasn't running, like, they had no reason to come to us. Outside of, it's not like we didn't get any traffic, but the blog traffic versus the wiki traffic. I mean, two very, very different numbers for those. But I mean, 2.0, we actually came out really well. We had Anonymous. We had our big Rise and Fall of the White Raven, which is basically the big 1.0 story recap from the point of circle around Nail Van Darnus, and we had talked to Essie. We got it fact checked by Koji. He wrote it like an intro for us for everything, and that is still like our most popular post on the site right now, and that really kind of helped to kick off 2.0 with our site and everything. And so yeah, it definitely it did kick back up. It took us a little bit to start to break even a little bit and everything, but yeah, it was definitely better once 2.0 came out.
Yeah. Jesus, the sad time of Final Fantasy 14. But at least it came back in a pretty big way, and so that helped out everybody. And I guess I'm going to take a quick pause here just to remind everyone, and I forgot to say this earlier, but if you guys do have any questions, and your questions can range anything to about, what kind of soda this Fusion like, which I think is Mountain Dew at the moment.
I just want to point out, I think we're both drinking Mountain Dew.
Oh,
right
really?
now.
Yeah.
We are.
And that's great.
Yeah. I'm drinking water because I'm a healthy person.
Drinking water because Mountain Dew didn't pay you enough.
Yeah, they didn't pay me enough, not yet. Where's my Yao drink or whatever, that soy milk drink or what? I need to get one of those things up here and just sure sponsor somebody, right? But if you guys have any questions at all about anything, whether it's all the way from headsets to what they do at the website to anything, feel free to ask it. We have Carrara in the chat, and she will be collecting any kind of questions and adding them to the document here. And if they are not completely repulsive, we will use it and ask it. So, all right. So the other question I have kind of comes down to moderation in terms, I guess, with the Final Fantasy XIV subreddit. And when you're in there, how often do you have to ban somebody? Just out of curiosity.
The best way I can sum it up is probably every week I wouldn't say every day, but definitely every week.
Oh, wow. Just every week you only have one person you got to ban? In average?
Not one person. I mean, as in, like we have bans every week as opposed to saying we have bans every day.
Okay, I get yeah. All right, so not every day you're going to ban somebody, but if you had to add it up, it would have to be in like a week span.
Yeah, a week. But when a week passes, we definitely had some bans. Yeah.
Okay, so what's like the biggest what's the best word for that? Biggest troll, biggest negativity, but biggest thing that you have to ban somebody for? Or I phrased that completely wrong. The most common thing you have to ban somebody for.
The most common thing, huh?
Okay, yeah.
Probably just you get people who are they have a new account and they're not doing personal attacks but being really nasty and that's all they're doing. Mm-hmm. And you can tell it's somebody who used to be here or maybe it's somebody new, and you either just ban them outright or you tell them, don't do this again, and then you ban them when they do it again. But the biggest thing is people create sock puppet accounts and just come back.
Sock puppet accounts is a really good word. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, I used to contribute to Wikipedia, so I kind of grew into that for a little bit, a year or two.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So just a standard Wikipedia?
Yeah, just standard Wikipedia. I do edits, I do reviews. I wasn't like, I don't know what they call them. I wasn't staff. I wasn't, like whatever they call not moderators of Wikipedia, but I was an editor pretty much. And
okay.
That was a year or two.
All right. So what other, I guess this is just a point of interest question. What other, communities, and you do Final Fantasy XI, you do Final Fantasy XIV, do you do anything else with any other communities, actively on the internet?
Muds? I still do Muds.
Still Muds?
I just created a new community project called AMN. It's a group of Muds that half of them were no longer online, so I talked to the owners, I brought them back online, and I have my own Mud still running for 12 years now, so there's that. Mm-hmm. I do moderate the Sailor Moon subreddit, but
oh, nice.
It's not very active. We don't get a lot of reports. People are generally pretty nice. I think it's close to the same size as the 11 subreddit, I think. But there are two other moderators there that are more active than me. I'm just sort of there's something happened with the top mod, and then I shot up the top mod after they got kicked out, I guess, by the admins or something. So that's. I run extra.
Do you mind if I ask you questions about the Sailor Moon subreddit?
Yeah.
Okay. I know this is completely off topic, 100%. But that's super interesting. So you got into that and moderating that, and people in that subreddit have, I guess, a better attitude than they would in a video game subreddit, right? Yes. Okay, because people are people are posting stuff. I love talking about this. This is what I want to discuss and everything else. Mm-hmm. Do they just not have as many conflicting opinions as people who play Final Fantasy XIV do, I guess?
That's exactly it. So in 14, you have raiders, you have people who don't raid, and then you just have that clash. Mm-hmm. And it's more than that, but you don't really have that with Sailor Moon. You have Sailor Moon, I have so and so in the manga, and you have less clashing than you do with a game, especially games.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask a quick question I saw in the chat just because it was kind of relevant to some things you were saying. They're asking what kind of MUDs you actually participate in.
Me, I run a lot of anime MUDs. So I run a Bleached Inuyasha Galaxy MUD I've been running for 12 years. I've brought up a lot of old Dragon Ball MUDs, Dragon Ball Star, Dragon Ball Last Time, and they're all pretty unique. Dragon Ball Last Time had a grid-based system, so you'd fire an energy wave, and you could see it traverse through the grid-based system in a MUD.
Yeah.
So even though MUDs are all text and telnet, you got to see, traversing of energy waves and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, it's just something I wasn't thinking of hearing, to be honest with you, Reseph. I guess I just haven't investigated you enough and kind of know you as much as I should have. So I feel like we need to have dinner together and just talk about life, man.
MUDs.
Yeah, MUDs. Why not? All right. So what's some of the worst things that people have done within the Final Fantasy XIV subreddit that you had to control?
Well, the biggest thing with Reddit and just communities is, let's see, like a group of people in a hive mind just attacking, and then it just tends to grow. So it's kind of like politics.
Yeah.
Situation now. Don't want to talk about that. But
Yeah.
like
So let's not talk about politics.
So you have a group of people who latch onto something, and it's it can be nasty, and then people start to see, oh man, this is interesting, and I don't know if it's true or not, but let me just latch onto this and just start clamoring to just post nasty stuff. And I forget, we had a Twitch streamer like 3 years ago, directed his fans to us or something like that. And it wasn't anybody that I know offhand about or anybody, and it was just really nasty, and the whole fan base came at us. And I don't think they're doing 14 streaming anymore, and I can't remember the name of the person, but I'm not going to mention it anyways.
Yeah. No witch hunts, right?
You get it's not so much, witch hunts are so and so is doing this in the game, and let's announce their name. But this was more of a Twitch streamer saying, go to the subreddit and just follow me and just not be nasty, but stuff like that.
Support my opinion, upvote everything I do.
Yeah, upvotes. That's a different topic.
That's a topic that we might get into. I don't know. Maybe not.
Sure.
But it's funny because upvotes with Reddit have had a interesting transition, I think, over the life of the subreddit. It was taken away. Downvotes were taken away for quite a while, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And I don't think people like that at all.
They didn't. I think halfway through, somebody posted a thread saying, stop doing this, and it got massive upvotes. So,
yeah. And people just want to be able to say they don't like something, I guess. But there are communities of people in the subreddit who will go around and they will just downvote stuff. And their reasoning for downvoting something is I just don't like this. I don't agree. My opinion says opposite, so this is not right. And now, how do you feel about that, Reseph?
In terms of having a downvote available, I think we always need to have a downvote available because there is a legit reason to downvote. People downvoting because they don't like so-and-so or because somebody missed a capitalized letter. I don't agree with that. But there's nothing we can do about that. As we as moderators, we can't see votes, so it's okay. All
right, yeah. God, that has to be annoying. That's one of my biggest. So if I had a complaint, Fusion, you know what? Let's bring you in here for a second, Fusion. If you have one complaint, no bars held or whatever against the subreddit right now. It doesn't have to be towards the moderation. It could be just about the subreddit in general, something you've noticed. What would be your biggest complaint about it?
I think it's hard to say it's a complaint, right? Because I'm not trying to bash the entire subreddit community, right? But
right.
Reseph said, I mean there can be sometimes that really kind of nasty hive mind that I've seen, and I can't remember. I know for a while there was the whole thing with Limit Break Radio and people were downloading that. And we won't get into that again. It was a mistake that I even tried to get involved with that. But yeah, there's a nasty hive mind, and it's not to dip into politics, right? But it's one of those things where just do your research. No, don't rely on everything you see. Don't take everything you see as facts. And but I mean that's really it. I mean, other than that, there's really good stuff that pops up on the Reddit. I mean, we look at it all the time. For sometimes we'll see something that got tweeted and I missed, or we'll see somebody doing something really cool in the community, and then I can take that information and throw it up on GE. So I mean, it's definitely an awesome resource for information.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes it sucks because it's mostly you want to go in there and find something like really juicy that you can just kind of think about, but then it's mostly just half-naked cat girls. I mean, that's just what it is. People are like, I like it, I'm going to upvote it. And I mean, that's kind of how content's taken in, I think, on the internet these days. People want easy to digest content. They don't want like very hard to digest content, stuff that you would have to spend more than like 2 seconds of attention on. I mean, and that's just what it is. And so it's nice every once in a while you look up and you go to the subreddit and you're like, hey, this is a really awesome picture. Hey, this is a statement I agree with. I'm going to talk about it because I want to have a discussion about it. And then you have, the crap that you would never want to see that's completely at the top of the subreddit. But I mean, that's just how it is. We all have our opinions, and there's sometimes super hive minds behind the scenes doing their own things that you can't really control. So I'm going to ask you another question here that's kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. What's your favorite thing about the subreddit so far, Reseph, that you've seen?
Does being considered media a Square Enix count?
yeah, that does.
That's before. So last year, in 11, we got an AMA from the 11 developers, and I would never ever have expected that in the lifetime of 11 ever.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
And media, I like to travel a lot, so I cover myself traveling. ENA travels with me sometimes as well, and Square considers us media now. So we've interviewed Yoshida at PAX East almost every year, and the first FanFest as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to go to more of these things. I haven't gone to them in a while. I think the first time I actually had a taste of media was at this most recent FanFest. And so it was kind of interesting to go in there and see how all that was working. Although it was kind of odd how they treated media at this FanFest, just because it didn't seem like it was really strict. I don't know.
It depends on where you go. NA FanFest, right? They just gave us a normal pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
JP FanFest, we had a group out there. We have our JP team as it is, with Marco's on there.
Right,
a lot of people know Marco.
Yeah.
And some other friends of mine that live out there. But they're very strict. This is a press pass. They couldn't participate in a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on kind of where you are in the world and how they handle it. I mean, I know everybody does it differently. So
yeah, and it was weird because in that whole scenario too, Marco, he went to it, but he didn't get any of the goodies, any of the bags, or anything. It's just hey, you're here. That's what you get. But at the NA one, you're like, hey, yeah, you get everything the normal person would get. But they didn't give you a pass in media or anything. But I'm going to say this. Maybe I'll feel bad about saying it afterwards, but I felt like it was too easy to just disguise yourself as media at the NA FanFest.
Well, I think, it's... I think part of that too, though, is whereas JP, I think it's a culture thing. You're there for business,
Mm-hmm.
But for NA, and I think this was probably the case for NA, and it might be the case for EU as well. It's yes, there are media outlets, but I think that if you had to kind of take a side, they probably lean more towards fan sites or enthusiasts or something like that. And that's probably, they know that, okay, they play the game, they're fans of the game, they're not here, just reporting for, IGN or Famitsu or something. They're actually active players. And so I think they treat them differently because of that. And I think that makes sense. I mean,
yeah. But when I can,
sad if I didn't get my stuff,
my
little bag,
I would have been pretty upset too. But I mean, when I was over there and just to kind of finish up on that, I was like, hey, I want to get a recording over here. I'm media. That's all I had to say. And so that was weird to me. And I feel like they need to control that a little bit more so you don't have any weird stuff like that happening. But I guess it just wasn't a big deal. They've never had an issue with it, so they're like, screw it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times too. The last Final Fantasy XI FanFest, they had different in-game stuff that you could play, but they were in rooms, and we could just be oh, we're here as media. We could just go in and walk around and watch people play, and it wasn't a big deal. I remember E3 2000. Gosh, was this 10 or 11? They had when they did the Ifrit Battle Challenge. Yoshida came out to play. And, it's in a roped off area, right? Where, they have all the stations and stuff. And I looked at, one of the guys, I'm like, hey, can I just like jump over the rope and like record this? He's like, yeah, go for it. I'm like, okay.
Did either of you go to PAX Prime at the launch party for 14?
Yes.
That was a strange event because it wasn't in PAX. It was in the hotel. And Yoshida and Soken were on the floor and nobody was walking up to them.
Really?
Well, this was when 2.0, it was out like that week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it was funny because I sat down the first night of that, I think, with Yoshida and Soken for an interview. But then the rest of the weekend, I remember seeing Soken just walking around because I feel like not a lot of people wanted to ask him questions in the interviews. Like I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the impression that I got. Is he was probably just sitting there and he was bored, so he'd come out and they were selling soundtracks. He was signing all the soundtracks and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what it was is that just the game was still new. I think there were some kind of diehard hardcore fans there, but I think largely it was people that were at the SE booth heard about this. They're like, oh, it's like a Final Fantasy. Okay, cool. Like I'll go check it out. And so they may not know the
the game
Yoshida is so. Which
is completely different than now. Anywhere they go, they're just rock stars, and you can't get like a second with them unless it's scheduled. You just have to walk up to them, shake their hand, take a picture, and that's it. That's really all you get.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but it is what it is. And this fan fest, they're a little bit more not involved with the media, I guess, than other events. Like I guess
they were not involved with the media at all.
Yeah.
Which was a complete departure from 2014. So basically, I mean, it kind of it sucks for us, right? Because we're putting up, we're spending all this money to go out to FanFest to cover it, and then we don't get an interview, which it sucks. But at the same time, I can't like deny their reasoning for it, right? Because they're like, this is a fan event. Fans are paying to come out here and celebrate the game, see all this new information, and so they want Yoshida to be able to walk around and mingle with the fans. And so I get it. It's,
right.
At the end of the day, it's not a huge, if I really have a pressing question, I can send an email. Like, it's not, not a big deal.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of just how it's going to have to be handled. And I remember I actually met Reseph at this recent FanFest, too. I met you, too, Fusion. I think I met you for a couple seconds over in
with
Mr.
Mike,
Happy's. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting. It was one of my favorite events, and I wish there was more of those kind of events going on. Because when you go to things like PAX East and everything else, you don't have nearly that amount of interaction with other people in the community, right? I mean, you have some, but it's not like...
no.
I see Fusion like every year at PAX East.
Yeah, I think the first time we met, it was you were getting ready to go in for your interview.
Yeah.
I think, and I remember this. We sat down with them, and because we had already done our Yoshida interview for that year, and so we sat down with them, and we were looking at the questions they had. We're like, okay, we asked this. Don't ask that; he won't answer it, or ask more about this. And that way we can. And we used to do this back when. I say we. I wasn't actually part of FFXIV back in the day, which was the 11 wiki that we had some admins come over and we saw running Gamer Escape. But they would work with Zam a lot back when Zam still did MMO stuff to maximize information out of interviews. They'd get together and say, okay, what are you asking? Or if one of them already did it, what should we ask? Or and that is awesome to be able to do that. And that way it's through all these outlets, because people are going to look wherever there's an interview, regardless of who did the interview. But if we can talk to people before and after, and we can kind of figure out, okay, this information's already out there, what else can we get, or what else should we ask more about? That way, everybody gets more information.
Yeah.
And so I love being able to do that with other outlets.
Yeah, and that's actually really awesome. And that's going to go into a topic I'll discuss with you in a little bit later too, Fusion, that I figure we should hit on. But let's get back to the subreddit. We did our tangent here, going into like the media background and everything there. So I guess with Reddit, it's a pretty straightforward, users come in, they post stuff, they do things, but you're actively going in there and adding little tidbits. Like you have the little Easter eggs off to the side, and you have all the other things and information. And when I was doing the world first race, you actively worked with me to get that a little Excel thing that I put up there to kind of track all that and everything. And
that was the first time we spoke, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's the first time we actually started talking and getting into that. And man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the next one, but maybe I need to find like a system or something programmed for the next world race because like, Jesus Christ, that was hard to do. But anyways, yeah, you actively go out and there's these little bits of the subreddit that you're doing constantly. Do you have any kind of future goals for what you want to happen with the subreddit?
A lot of that is CSS for like style sheets. So I mean, there's always stuff. For example, we just added the lore tag, but once that falls off, like people don't realize it's there. People are gonna lose track that it's a real tag. So we want to add we want to add some CSS on the sidebar, which would be a dropout menu, and let you select flare tags to list by flare. And that's something coming up soon, I think.
Okay. That's kind of interesting. I mean, how much control do you really have within what you can do with the subreddit? I mean, is it a lot? Can you do a whole bunch with it, or is you just have to kind of stick towards that core and base of it?
We are limited to CSS only. So anything we can do with CSS3 is all we can do. We can't edit HTML. We can't. What else is there? Can't do JavaScript. So a lot of the sidebar, you can see it's updated every 15 minutes based on server status and the countdown. That's a bot written in Python, and all that bot is doing is that bot is grabbing the whole sidebar, pulling it back, replacing some text, and pushing the whole sidebar back to the subreddit.
Huh.
And that's how it's done.
You guys do a lot more technical crap than I do. Yeah. Jesus Christ. I mean, and again, it sounds like you're doing a lot of work, and in the end, you don't really get much from it. I guess you could, like, if you wanted to apply for somewhere, you could put that kind of on your resume or something, right? And you could say, hey, I manage this, and this is part of a product that I pretty much managed and created, right?
Yeah, last year I added that to my LinkedIn, funny enough.
Yeah, well, then there you go, man. And so I guess that's really, it's like doing a internship forever, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny because when ENA first got the interview with Yoshida, the first FanFest, it was that point we realized that we're this big that we get interviews. And then after that, you start running into people like, oh, you're so-and-so from Reddit. And I'm like, people know me? And it's still strange.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling. And FanFest was an extremely, extremely weird feeling. I think that was the most exposure. Like, that's actually the first time I had open exposure with people who watched the show. They're like, hey, yeah, it's Frosty. Yeah, I know you. And so that was a weird feeling for me because I went to actually 2014 when I wasn't actually in media. I didn't do anything. I didn't do MogTalk. I didn't do any of this stuff. And so I went just as someone going to enjoy the event. And it was weird. And I think there's a lot of people in the community that had that same feeling that happened in 2016 because the content creator community has grown enormously since 2014, I think. So it's kind of interesting to see all this. I guess the other question I'll have is something that I'm a little bit more familiar with. When people submit stuff to and I just want to clear this up because I feel like this is important. Like content creators, they submit stuff to the subreddit. How do you guys perceive that? Like, how do you treat that? You're like, hey, someone submitted something. How do you have to handle that? Because I know there's a rule, right?
Yeah, that's a big topic. So let's say 3 years ago when we had Realm World was launched and we had people who are content creators posting, the admins have this rule. It's the self-promotion rule. And back then, 3 years ago, we said, okay, it's an admin rule, so we're going to enforce it because if we don't enforce it and it slips by and the admins see it, then people get shadow banned. And shadow bans are not fun. Shadow ban is you're banned from Reddit, all of Reddit, and you can't see your ban. You don't know you're banned.
Yeah, it's a horrible feeling.
So that was the thing. So we would be telling people, don't spam your self-promotion content. Try to participate in Reddit, but don't spam it. And there were bans going out here and there, not all the time. It was kind of like half and half. We tried to tell people, but at the same time we were trying to keep people. And back then, also actually, there were no temp bans, so we couldn't temp ban people back then. Admins didn't give that to us either. So and then a year or two ago, I followed the admins, what they do, what they say. And about a year or two ago, they had said, well, we're thinking about the self-promotion rule. What are we going to do? And between the last 3 years, they've expanded how it's written out, stuff like that. So they've been thinking about what they're doing with that. So what we started doing was we started reeling back and saying, now that we have temp bans or now that we have an understanding of where the admins might go, we now just send people a message saying, okay, we see you're spamming your site or your channel. Just give us a read that the admins wrote up. Give us a read and please try to participate. So we don't really do a lot of bans anymore. We do a lot of warnings, heads up. And also part of that is because the admins don't shadow ban humans anymore. The admins really just shadow ban bots. So the admins developed a tool called suspension. So somebody gets suspended, it's not horrible because you can get it unsuspended sort of. So it's sort of like, well, if we don't kind of catch it, okay, the admins will take care of it, but it's not like you're gone, poof, gone or something like that. So in the last, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real quick, because some people might not understand the difference between admins and what you do. Do you mind telling everyone kind of, admins are like global Reddit?
Yeah. Admins are paid employees of Reddit. They run the servers, they develop Reddit, they do a lot of that. What they don't do is they don't create communities, they don't manage communities. They'll create subreddits, but like their own little special stuff. So they're the top levels, and what we can do, what tools we have available, comes from them. So it's like, if we want to see how people vote, well, the admins have to give us that, and they won't. So, okay. And they I don't know. It's hard to say. I talked to the director of community in a Google Talk this year with my whole mod team. He used to work for Wikipedia. Talked with him. I got a feeling where they're going. It's like up and down. There's some things I like where they're going. There's some things like, whoa, what are you doing? And there's really no choice though. It's not like I'm gonna just shut down the subreddit like some other MMO subreddit shut down their subreddit for like a day or two.
Was it WoW who did that?
Yeah, it was WoW.
I remember, seeing stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't care how I feel about the admins or Reddit. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to shut anything down.
I gotcha. And here comes a quick, just relevant question. Tech Yumi was asking, what actually counts as like spamming?
So the admins have this big page of what self-promotion is, but spamming is basically if you create a subreddit account and your first post is a link to your website, and then you just keep doing that like every week, and you don't comment, you don't participate. That's basically spamming.
Okay. But if you're actually going in there and just saying things every once in a while, because some people, this is the understanding that some people have. And again, if you're like, maybe we shouldn't talk about it or something, just let me know, because I'm going to ask controversial questions. First, what color is your underwear? I'm just kidding. All right. So if this is the big topic. So someone's posting something in there, and they say, hey, and this is me coming from the content creator side of it and hearing other content creators talk about it. And so this isn't really, I guess, a global user thing with Reddit, but this is just something I'm familiar with. So someone posts something, then they're like, well, now I need to go to 10 posts and just say, hey, cool. And then they go back and they post their own thing. How do you feel about that?
The admins had this guideline of 1 to 10 ratio. So for every one self-promotion post, you should be making one unrelated post or comments. And we're lenient. It's sort of like, if you're participating and your comments are actually not like you said, oh cool. If you're just saying oh cool or okay or something doesn't contribute, then we probably won't count that. We'll say you're not really participating. So try to give us some more here. Participate some more.
I gotcha. Because, that's an important thing. And, the rule makes sense, right? Fusion, first off, go ahead and tell me your thoughts on all this, because you're coming from a different perspective than my own. So,
well, it's kind of the same, right, in a way. Really the only difference is that we probably post more interview stuff, right? But we do have our podcasts and stuff like that. But the way that I've always interpreted, right, personally, is if the content itself is contributing, right? So if I post 3 interviews in a row, or for example, right? That's fine, because that's all going to generate really good discussion and everything like that. But if I'm posting just random podcast episodes where it's just us talking about the patch, then it's yeah, all right, everybody's been doing that for weeks. It's not that big of a deal. And so that's kind of how I interpret it. That being said, I do try and be a little bit active, and I look at the subreddit every day, so I'm usually commenting once or twice a day, and stuff anyway. So yeah,
and I do my best too. I know every once in a while I post something in there, But like when I post stuff, I want it to be something that people actually care about. I don't want it to be something like, hey, here's a thing, here's my show, I'm just going to post it. This is what I do every single week. Like I can't do that. Like something in my body says, no, I can't do that because it seems like cheap and overly promotional. Like I'm like, hey, this is something people might actually care to see and talk about and everything else. So I kind of feel you with that, Fusion. And I mean, people will also try to get around it, and they'll say, well, my friend posted it for me. And I mean, that's just, there's no way to really control that either, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different story. That's like, sort of like if we had a YouTube or a Twitch streamer like 3 years ago, and they were posting their Twitch stream, and there were some people interested in it, some people not. But you know, if a fan came out and posted that link to that stream, then there really wouldn't be a problem with it because it, you know, really wasn't self-promotion. So at least in a technical manner, you're thinking about the admin rule, it's not self-promotion. But then again, you think about, but what if it's not really a fan? What if it's the guy in a different disguise? But we can't tell.
Right.
That'll lead you down a whole other path.
Yeah.
So we try to have good assumptions like, okay, we're going to assume that you're a fan and you're just posting this because you're interested. And that happens from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last 2 years, our goal is sort of like, there's content creators. We want to make sure they're understanding and they're getting posted like that. But, you know, if somebody posts a link to their content, you go to their profile, you can see, you know, what did they do in the last couple of months? And if it's something in Reddit, anywhere on Reddit, doesn't matter if it's in subreddit, then it's like, oh, you're participating on Reddit. That's fine. So, yeah.
And it's kind of funny. When people post I've had it happen a couple of times where people will post my episode, like I do a show, and then someone's like, hey, I'm going to post it up there. It's a good and a bad thing. For example, if we have an entire show and we're talking about an in-depth discussion, and then like there's one I had Arthur's on, and then we were actually talking about stuff, and they're like, we had like a quick, like, I don't know, 5 minutes where we're just discussing, oh yeah, this is Reddit, this is so-and-so, and then they post up, hey, this is why Reddit sucks, and then that's my whole episode. I'm like, that wasn't anything. Why would you do that? And so now I think like this entire 3-hour discussion was all like, oh, Reddit sucks, but it had nothing to do with that. It was just someone venting off it for like 5 minutes during the show.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of that. The really hard part is if somebody posts a link to a Twitch stream, that's really hard because by the time people view it, it's ended.
Yeah. I feel like, Twitch stream stuff doesn't really work out, but people will post that in party finders. People will shout it. They're like, hey, I'm streaming. Guys, come watch me. I'm doing this, and it's everywhere. I'm like, do what you want, I guess, man. But there are some people who get seriously harassed for doing that stuff. Like I've seen people try to do that, and now they're just a joke in the community. Like everyone just makes fun of them all day, because that's how people are. They'll say, hey, I really don't like this. Oh, I really don't like this, and then they'll just make him into a meme. Or like just same thing. Like you have a tank that just really can't tank too well, but he's in tons of parties. He's going to become like a meme, and everybody's just going to make fun of him constantly, and it turns into that whole little nonsense thing. So be careful how you try to promote yourself, guys. Just FYI. But yeah, no, okay. So, Reseph, I guess the other question I'd like to ask, because, I mean, Final Fantasy XIV and Final Fantasy XI, I would assume have different overall communities, right? Mm-hmm. Different types of people who play those games. If you had to compare to two different types of communities, how would you compare them?
That's a big question. Anything specific you want to ask?
Okay, so like, are there more toxic people playing or actually, I guess you would only know mainly from the subreddit, but are there more toxic people in Final Fantasy XI than there is in Final Fantasy XIV, vice versa?
So in terms of at least like Reddit subreddits,
mm-hmm.
the 14 subreddit, you can get a feel for like more toxic people because at some point, I'd say 2 years ago, we hit this point when I knew this was coming because you could feel it. Mm-hmm. We hit this thing called Eternal September, and I'm sure some people know of that. If you look it up, it's an old Usenet term. It's basically when you pass a threshold for a community, you've gone past the point of where it's a tight-knit community to where you have always this percentage of people who are toxic. Mm-hmm. And when your community grows past a certain point, that percent is still the same, but suddenly the numbers are like 10 times as high. And that's what happens. And it's called Eternal September. And I knew it was coming back 2 years ago. And I posted, there's a private subreddit called MogTalk. mod talk, not Mog. Talk.
Yeah, I got it. Awesome.
For established moderator communities, so they're kind of not the top mods, but like the ones that have big communities. And I posted about it. I said, okay, we're gonna hit Eternal September soon. What can we do about it? And there's really nothing. You just have to moderate harder and just keep an eye on more things. So, I mean, the 14 subreddit is definitely huger, so we've passed that point. And 11 is just 11. The subreddit's just still tight knit, and I think it's still less than 10,000 subscribers, so we're still tight knit. People are pretty nice over there. There's very, very little mod mail activity there from users. We don't get a lot of reports. It's just very, it's just very tight knit.
I got you. No, that actually makes a lot of sense. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's probably related to just the player base. I mean, you look at something like 14 where it's a newer game. A lot of people are still jumping in, and then you have 11 where a lot of people that are playing it now are people that have been playing it. Right? There's not a lot of people. You don't see a lot of I started 11 this week. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, it's people that have been with the game for a long time and they still want to be able to enjoy the game. And so I think that probably plays a big deal into that too. I would imagine.
Yeah, it's and also the culture of 11. You didn't have Duty Finder. You didn't have really random people you were joining with. The only thing in 11 that was really like could be toxic ever was H&M parties. Trying to claim those H&M. That was really that was all there was. Besides that, sometimes you'd have Japanese parties who didn't want to invite Americans, but that was just because they wanted to be that way. Because when we launched in the U.S. of 11, we were just like shouting all this. Well, that was a mess. Japan did not like that when 11 launched.
Yeah.
Well, 11, I've always found 11 as a game to be like the greatest community I've ever been part of.
Yeah, I always thought it was kind of interesting having those kind of culture shocks with MMOs, and I think 11 probably had a really good. I mean, you don't really have that so much in 14 because you have different servers for different areas and regions and everything else. But I've played games that only have one server and lots of different cultures all go into that one server, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're going to release this over in Brazil. And it just turns into like the worst thing, like just this culture clash and like, oh, I can't speak English, oh, I can't speak Portuguese, whatever. It just you have this whole huge thing. It was insane. So you don't really get that with 14, so it changes that up a little bit. But I do relate a little bit to like, hey, you don't speak Japanese? Okay, no, you're not in the party. I want to play. I actually created a character, I think, on Bahamut, and I wanted just to create it. I don't speak Japanese at all, just to see what your life would be like playing through, a server and not being able to speak Japanese. But then again, there's too many people who speak actually English on Bahamut, so it doesn't really make a difference, or any Japanese server you go to.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Again, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. We'll be collecting them, and then we'll have a small little segment at the end for those questions. And sometimes we'll answer them, of course, while we're in the discussion. If it's super relevant and I see it, sometimes I won't see it. But feel free to ask those questions, and we'll go over it. So I want to focus a little bit here on the Gamer Escape side, Fusion, if that's all right. Yeah?
I mean,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. So I'll start with the same kind of question here. What inspired you to say, hey, I'm going to start with Gamer Escape? And I know you were talking to me a little bit beforehand that there's a lot of stuff that happened before Gamer Escape with you. You can go into that too if you don't mind.
So back in, I'm trying to think when I started playing 11. It was like 2005 or 2006. There was a website called ogaming.com, and they had the first and then only podcast for Final Fantasy 11. This is back when like podcasts were a thing, like they were just kind of coming out and nobody really knew what they were is it like radio or everybody was still kind of figuring out what podcasts were. But there was a Final Fantasy 11 podcast from OGaming called Mega Elixir, and I started listening to that, and I kind of got involved with their forums and everything. This was right around when Treasures of Outer Gone launched for Final Fantasy 11, and their site ended up getting bought out by Zam. And because of that, a lot of the OGaming stuff went away, and that included the podcast. And so what had happened is some of the guys that ran that, they were under a non-competition clause, so they couldn't run another podcast. But they brought me and some other people that we had guested on their show, and so we kind of came together and we started this podcast called Pet Food Alpha. And then kind of down the road a little bit, we ended up separating from them because we weren't a fan of some of the ads they were putting on our website. Some of them were a little revealing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just, there was this whole thing. And so we kind of branched out for them, and we were running for quite a while. Limit Break Radio started a little bit after that, and some other Final Fantasy 11 shows popped up. But then as we were getting closer to the announcement of 1.0 for 14, we were talking with the guys over at FFXIclopedia, which was basically what Gamer Escape is, kind of, but for Final Fantasy 11. And it's like we should like team up because we would post a lot of new stuff, whereas FFXIclopedia was just like the wiki. It's like we should take take the podcast news stuff you guys do, we'll take the wiki and we'll just kind of mash them together. And so we watched the 2009 Sony press conference when they announced 1.0. And we had the first website up like within days after that. It was ENJOYYYY.com. And then, as that kind of went, we ended up getting reached out to by Square. They published, I don't know if anybody remembers Wakfu. It was a MMO developed by, I think it was a French developer on Kama. They had an anime and everything for it. And they're like, you guys should do a wiki for this too. And like, since you have all these wikis, maybe you should just like put them under like one thing. And so we're like, okay. And so we made Gamer Escape. We brought over, we copied over the Final Fantasy 11 wiki from FFXIclopedia at the worst possible time, right before Abyssia launched. And so we still have it on 11 wiki. It's outdated, unfortunately. It's one of those things where our team at Gamer Escape is a very, very small team. I think one plays 11. It's just kind of one of those things. But people can update it, if they want. But yeah, and so we launched Gamer Escape, and then 1.0 kind of it happened, right? We all know what happened with 1.0. 2.0 launched, we dropped Wakfu because nobody cared. Square gave the publishing rights back to the developers. And yeah, so that's kind of where we are now. So it's been a while. I've been doing this for over 10 years now.
Nice. 10 years, Jesus Christ, man.
Right?
That's a huge chunk of your life, dude. That's like 1% of your life, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna live for 1,000 years, dude.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, man.
Fingers crossed. Oh my God, my mic. Hold on. Okay. Fingers crossed, and then robotics and everything else, and biorobotics, things like that, and we can just start living forever. We don't got to worry about anything anymore. We can go infest other planets. Different topic.
Deus Ex everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Ghost in the Shell.
Oh God, that's the scariest thing in the world. I can't get into a topic about Ghost in the Shell. Have you guys played Soma at all?
No.
Yeah, I beat it.
Yep. Soma, I would recommend it, Fusion.
I've heard good things. I just, gotta find the time, man.
Find it. Like, if you like Ghost in the Shell and you like scary games, you'll like Soma. No doubt at all. But that whole just thought process scares me. But we won't talk about it anymore because I don't want to be terrified during this show. But yeah, with Gamer Escape, you made that, and it's become like a huge thing now. I mean, it's not just like when you were making it, the initial goal was just to have kind of a source of information, like in one spot. Or
well, so what it was, I mean, we had FFXIclopedia, which was hosted on Wikia. We had the Wakfu wiki that we were making, then we had our ENJOYYYY, our 14 wiki. But we also were like, we don't just play these games, right? We play other games and stuff too. And so we're like, well, we'll make Gamer Escape, right? We'll also talk about other games and stuff. At one point, we had like a general games wiki in development, which was that ended up being a whole mess. But it's really our big focus is information. I mean, that's for people that were coming from 11, right, that knew us from FFXIclopedia, that was the big thing. Everybody went to the wiki to get information. And so we just, we wanted to post news, for more information. The podcast that we started was information focused versus like an entertainment focused podcast.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's we just want to inform people. That's my biggest pet peeve is like people that don't know things or people that don't want to take a second to Google things.
Ignorance. Hate it.
I'm one of those people on the subreddit. Like, I've been guilty of like linking to a couple let me Google that for yous a couple times. Like,
you're one of those assholes. I gotcha.
on occasion. It depends what it is. If it's something like super easy, it's like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
But, not a lot, a few.
Yeah, I gotcha. And I mean, in all honesty, that makes a lot of sense too. I'll say some stupid stuff sometimes. I'm just like so lazy. I'll be running around. Hey, could somebody tell me this bit of information? Like, I could have took 5 seconds and looked it up, but whatever. I'm talking to people, guys. I want conversation. I don't want to stupid go to a website stuff. I want to sit here and talk to somebody. This is an icebreaker, guys. Come on. But yeah, no. I mean, you've grown Gamerscape a lot. I mean, you have, Eighth the Right Radio. You have your blog post. You guys do, right?
Yep.
What other things do you guys do besides those three things? Is that mainly it, or?
I mean, that's mainly it. I mean, we have the wiki, which is kind of our big project. We actually launched a Final Fantasy 15 wiki that we fleshed out a lot. I don't know if it's complete quotation fingers, but there's we got a lot of stuff in there. For it was kind of an experiment for us. It's an offline game,
right?
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, really the blog post we do game reviews. We actually have a couple of guys that just do reviews for us for just kind of general gaming stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's basically I promote it as like the number one resource for Final Fantasy 14 and then some other stuff too, because it's. Nice. Everybody, I'm sure everybody that's listening, they've been until they've found themselves in a lull with 14 at some point, right? They need a break, they need to do something else. Everybody else is playing other games. It's not like I play video games, but it's just Final Fantasy 14. It's other stuff too.
Yeah. Like Resident Evil 7.
Oh man, love Resident 7, so good. But yeah, I mean, and so we'll go to E3. We'll do. We'll sit down and get previews of some games and stuff like that and talk about stuff that's not 14, just because it's nice to have a break, but also because it's, we're interested in other stuff too. So we can, it's not like we're moving to only just like games in general, but it's just, little stuff that's of interest to the people that write. Because we're all, none of us are getting paid for any of this. This is all volunteer stuff. So it's just stuff that we're interested in. If we have the time and want to talk about it, we have the platform to do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like when you get, and there are sources, there are little tiny bits of income that you can get from various little things, but that income never really amounts to much. Like,
well, it does, but it's just never something that really goes in my pocket. We do make money through ads and everything. All that money goes to paying for the server for the site, and then it goes to paying for trips to E3 or to FanFest. So really, that's just going back into the site too, because we'll go to E3, we'll get a Yoshida interview for people. It's an expensive Yoshida interview, but
right.
It's just it's stuff we enjoy. We enjoy going out there. We enjoy seeing Yoshida, and we're definitely not making bank. We're not setting any money in our pockets for this stuff. It's we spend the money to go right back into it to post more information and stuff. So. Yeah.
It's funny because people just don't understand that stuff too. They're like, oh yeah, you guys are making so much money. That gets transferred into plane tickets and like eating McDonald's. It's like not even going out anywhere nice. You're just kind of having a quick bit of food so you can, or expensive convention food. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's like, our Yoshida interview, that also, going out there to get that requires, flying out like 2 or 3 people, hotel, food, like those are expensive Yoshida interviews.
Yeah.
And nobody understands that, so.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other question I have for you is kind of, besides what you're doing right now, do you have any kind of future projects that you want to do for Gamerscape?
Right now, the big thing we're working on a new website layout. This is something we've been working on since, like months before Heaven's Word launched.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things. I had the programmer friend. I'm like, hey, can you help us? Yeah, sure. And he just fizzled off. I don't know what. I haven't talked to him since. But we're finally getting real close to it. So hopefully that'll be out within the next month or so. It'll just be a new layout, a little more modernized, a little more mobile friendly. Some of the stuff that we use, like the wiki backend and stuff, will be updated and everything like that. Mm-hmm. Stuff that I'd like to get into. I would like to get more into general gaming. We used to have just the Gamer Escape podcast, which was like just general game stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to find the time to get the news together for that and record and edit and stuff like that. So one of these days maybe we'll get around to it again. But we'll see. But right now, we're definitely putting our focus on the 14 and the site, and getting ready for 4.0. So
4.0 is gonna be insane. It's always like, I guess I want to ask you this as a related question. When you have an expansion coming up, like for Heaven's Ward, for example, like how insane does it really get for you guys when all that stuff's going on? Because it's a whole expansion of new information for you.
So I don't actually, like, I'll make little edits, right? But we actually have a few guys that are like our hardcore like wiki guys for the site. But I still remember leading up to Heaven's Word, I was like, guys, we need to get like a really good pet template because like Machinist is gonna have pets. Because I was thinking the turrets were gonna be pets, right? Just like the Summoner and Scholar. That ended up not happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's weird because I'll offer like ideas for like layout and design and stuff like that. But yeah, actually getting the information together, it can be challenging because especially with an expansion, because it's a lot of stuff at once. It's a lot of new items. But the real kick is it's all new systems, or changes to existing systems, and so that takes a lot of time to make new templates to lay out that information and stuff. It's like when they added like crafting and gathering scripts. It's just like, okay, what is all this like? And then you have to set up, okay, these are the items you can get, these are the values of scripts, and then you can take these and exchange it for that, but then that can exchange for this, and it's just it's that whole trail of stuff. But we were kind of smart the way when we set up our wiki. When you think of just like a normal wiki, and this was true with the FF Encyclopedia wiki originally too, it's okay, you get like for example, right, this monster drops a sword. You have to edit the, you have to make the sword page. You have to go to the monster page and say that it drops the sword. If it can be crafted, you have to, add the recipe, and then you have to add the recipe on like a recipes list, and you have to go to all these different pages just to add one item. But the way that we have it set up on Gamer Escape, we use something called DPL, which basically lets us, and that's if anyone has ever noticed, like, man, this page loads a little slow. If it's a list with like 1 million items on it, it's because of the way that we're using it. It's so we add it once, we say, okay, it's from this monster, here's the recipe and all this stuff, and then it'll pop up on all these lists instead of having to go around and make all these little edits. And so that helps a lot, especially when adding so many new things. But yeah, really when it comes to adding new things, really new systems, is really the hardest part, and trying to figure out how to template and and lay it out and everything like that.
Yeah. That sounds like a pain in the ass, dude, to be honest with you.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if I would ever want to jump into that too deep. So, God, listening to that, for some reason, I had like a question I was ready to just like ask you, but I completely... Okay, here we go. All right, so when people get a lot of this information, how do you... Because they contribute it, right? They're like, hey, this is good. And I've never actually contributed anything. Do you have to say, hey, this is verified information and this is true? Or how does the whole system work? Again, sorry for my ignorance on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nice thing about 14, which kind of counteracts the need for a wiki, is it gives you a lot of information. And so, looking at something like scripts, we know exactly what we're going to get if we turn them in at these values and stuff like that. There's, we'll go back. One of my biggest pet peeves about Reddit, a lot of people will post links to Google Docs. They'll gather the information themselves and stuff. And that's fine, right? I'm not saying they shouldn't, but what happens when, like, 3 years from now, you're like, man, I really wish this information was somewhere. Oh, it's in a Google Doc from years ago, right? It's like, put it on the wiki. Like, it's always going to be easier to find instead of buried in Reddit somewhere. But, wiki is open to edit for anybody. So, if you're one of those people that go out and collect information like that,
yeah,
there you go. So,
I guess that kind of goes on to my more slightly controversial question. Is a lot of people get this information before it's out, and they go into data mining and all this other stuff. And we've heard, official statements, especially in regards to music, against data mining. And so I'm guessing some information gets contributed to your website because of data mining, right? Or no?
Yeah.
No, okay.
No, absolutely. And it's, we talked to Yoshida about this at E3 a couple of years ago too. Just kind of his thoughts. I'm trying to remember if this came off of like the parser, discussion or not, but we just kind of asked, his thoughts on data mining, and he's, and asking Yoshida a question like this is always amazing, because even if there's somebody like, the legal team is like, or PR is like in the corner watching him, right? Like, what, like, careful what you say. He's like, well, and what he did, he's like, as executive producer, Naoki Yoshida, this is what I think. As like player Yoshida, it's a completely different, answer. But really, what Yoshida said is, we know people do it. If you spoil things because of it, you're an asshole. Is basically what it amounted to. It's like, don't data mine all this stuff and then like put it out here like, hey, so like, guess what? Like, it's
so and
this
so,
happened.
yeah.
It's like, thanks, great. Snape kills Dumbledore. I appreciate it. I haven't even, the game's not even live yet after the update, and I know what happens. But as far as items go, I think today you can't run a site like Gamer Escape or XIVDB or Garland Tools or anything like that without being able to pull the items. There's no way.
Yeah. Remember the Final Coil cutscene?
Yes.
That was interesting.
I remember that. Yeah, somebody had put it up, and that got taken down pretty
Square
quick.
Square was like, no, this is coming down.
Well, and it's funny too, because we had a similar run-in when the first benchmark went out. People data mined the first benchmark for 14.
Yes.
That sucked.
The fan was just absolutely pummeled with shit that day.
Yeah.
We had back in the day Dr. Mog, who was on Eighth Rate Radio for us for a while. He also did a lot of YouTube videos and stuff. His channel got obliterated because he talked about some of the stuff that people were finding, and it was a bad time to be even connected to that in any way, because they came down hard, because there were like area names, like the housing ward names were in that. The little title slides from like Coil were in that. Yeah, there was a lot of like voice actors. They were so pissed that like people knew who were like voicing characters in the game. That kind of like lots of crazy. I mean, and I understand it, right? And to a point, right? It's kind of like what you should have said. It's spoiling things, right, for some people. But nowadays, I mean, they know people do it. It's like 11. They know people use windowware. They need, they know people parse. Just like, don't be a dick about it. Like, it's just kind of it's the way things are.
Yeah, same thing with people like the title came out talking about dicks. That title that came out, and people knew this is a very spoilish title. But they were like, all right, I'm wearing it now, and I'm gonna jump around and show it everywhere.
Yeah, and I feel so bad for Koji, and he was on the forum apologizing for it, and it's just stuff happens sometimes, right? Stuff just kind of slips by, and. It is, it is what it is. I mean, as long as people, I mean, people are going to continue to data mine, people are going to continue to parse. As long as you're not actively trying to just be a dick about it, right? Don't bring people down in your pickup groups or whatever because of it. Don't, it's not like we're on the wiki being like, all right, main page, this happened in the end of 3.5, check out this cool title that you can get. It's, we're not doing that. It's like, here's the item list. It's the same item list that's on the lodestone. I mean, not a big deal. I don't think so.
And that kind of brings a question towards you, Reseph, here. Reseph. Sorry. All of them. So I guess that my question is, when people do these things and they post stuff that's like super questionable, I mean, you can't really do much about that, right? Or what's your thoughts on
data mining or spoilers?
Well, spoilers are a completely different story. You kind of have a control over that, right? Maybe?
Right.
You can tag it as spoilers or something like that.
Well, Reddit finally gave us spoiler tags officially on this website after 7 years, so yes.
Yeah. But go ahead.
You talking about data mining then?
Yeah, data mining or doing things that are just like, when people post stuff about like ACT, when people post stuff about parsing, when people post data mine stuff, things that, are questionable in regards to like Square Enix's official kind of view about that. How do you kind of deal with that?
Well, I mean, we've talked with Square before. Kahuna, who participates on the subreddit from Square, he has his own view of the subreddit and Square are not connected. There is no influence between the two. So if we choose to allow something or deny something, we will do that. We don't really get cease and desist at all, really. I mean, you could see, I don't know. See, this is a very strange example, but let's see. There was a Black Mage exploit 4 months ago,
Yeah.
and that was posted on the subreddit, and that flew up to the top, and it was, I think, a link to FF logs, or it was something like that. And our normal condition is to remove that because there's a name in there, and if that person is being falsely accused, then we're going to have issues. we didn't remove it because we were reading over and there's comments and people were talking about it and it looked pretty legit. Typically, we'd remove it. We kept it up. At FanFest, we heard, not at FanFest, we heard from somebody, I think from Square, saying that a developer, a real developer, was on Reddit when that was posted and saw it happen and was able to go into the logs and see, you know, who this was and what happened, what was allowing to happen. So it's sort of like we kept it up. Typical standards, we would remove it, kept up. Square saw it, and Square was able to see the exploit. So it's
kind of like good for informing both the developers too. Like, this is, attention, holy shit, this is happening. You should see this is happening.
And we don't do that all the time, but you know, there's every once in a while there's something that comes up that's a big exploit. Like we had what just came up, the using pompadours in PvP.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what's going on with that with Square. I think last I saw it's still happening.
The pomanders and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. We kept up some of those posts. We try to keep up with the ones that have heavy discussions. But in terms of data mining, we allow we have a policy. We allow data mining. We don't allow music downloads. We allow music YouTube posts because Square can
moderate
claim moderate and claim. Square can claim a YouTube video, so they would claim it and it would monetary value go to Square. So it's still, you know, Square is allowing this. But, you know, data mining we allow. Music downloads we don't allow. We have people asking us sometimes, can I post a picture of me being out of bounds? The answer is yes. We had somebody last week. Can I post a guide how to get out of bounds? And we're like, no, not really.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, talking about the data mining stuff. I mean, we have one of our guys actually that does our wiki stuff. Usually when patch comes around, he'll start up a thread that's basically, okay, this is what we're finding. Here's links to stuff, but you know, there's always a warning or a comment if there are spoilers or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it's it's one of those things, especially like when 11 was around too. I mean, people, patch day, okay, let's see what's new. Let's see what they've added. And I think for any MMO, you're going to have that. But the important thing is to have it organized and done in a way that it's it's not spoilery, it's not ruining the game for anybody.
Yeah. 11 was huge with that because if you think it's huge for 14, 11, we didn't have an official lodestone or database site. We didn't have that. 11, it was just, it was huge.
Man. So, I mean, talking about that too, we can always just we can lead into talking about a few predictions that could be coming from EU. I don't know if you guys want to even discuss the job files and everything else, things that might have been found. That
was the huge thing, right, with this patch. I am of the mind, and I've said it a couple times here already. They know that we look at that stuff, so I'm not gonna believe anything till I see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yoshida likes to troll. He trolls a lot. I mean, back in at E3 2010, he showed us an early build of 2.0. And he's walking around, and he accidentally hit the right mouse button, and pops up the little menu. I'm like, oh, cool! There's like a right click menu now. I'm like, I wish I could read Japanese so I knew what was on there. And he just goes, yep. And he opens it again, knowing that I can't read what's on it. It's like, oh my gosh, Yoshida. But that's funny. I mean, he likes to troll people. He likes to mess with. I mean, we have the shirts. Spider-Man. Figure that one out, guys. I mean, just because it's in the DATs, they know we look at the DATs. I just, maybe it's true, but it could be something completely different too. I mean, wait until it's announced.
I'm hoping they start trolling with data mining stuff. I haven't seen too much of that happening, right? Have you guys seen that in the past where they've actually trolled? No.
Well, you remember 1.0 had those other gun jobs in the data files.
Well, there was a whole list of jobs from 1.0. There was like a shepherd, and there was like all this crazy crap from 1.0.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Jesus, man. Like, I don't know. I'm hoping, I'm begging that Samurai does not come. Yeah,
I'm with you. I don't want Samurai tank because it's really obvious, and I mean it's just something you would expect. My guess would be Shogun tank. It's the same thing, but I'm hoping for a Blue Mage tank. I'd love a Blue Mage tank.
Oh, that would be so amazing. If I saw a Blue Mage just pop up on the screen, and I would just, as soon as I would go straight to Twitter, fucking told you so. And just like spam that, just because I just want it to be something that's not obvious. And it feels like it's too obvious right now for it to be
Yeah.
samurai.
I mean, the way I think about it is, right, because, I mean, they told us about samurai back at, like, PAX East last year during the panel. They're like, yeah, we thought about it for Heaven's Word, but no. And so I'm thinking, all right, so that's, you know, this is part of the presentation on how long it takes to develop a job. And so it's kind of like, well, if they spent all that time to get samurai to a place where it was basically between that or Dark Knight, it's probably far enough along that it would be less work to add it. You know, it seems like it'd be too similar to a Dark Knight tank. I would rather have it be a DPS. I also don't see them adding 2 DPSs. I think that would be bad for the queue. But I also don't think that 14 is a game that could do justice to Blue Mage. So
I think it could. I think it could do okay.
No, because I mean, and this is coming from like an 11 background, right? Where you have to go out, farm all your abilities, all of your abilities. You could equip a certain amount. They would give you certain stat bonuses, all this stuff. In 14, it's going to be like, okay, go do a job quest, go fight a behemoth, get this thing, and everybody's going to have the exact same rotation. That's not Blue Mage. Like,
Right.
For Final Fantasy 14 is Blue Mage.
Yeah, but that's not the job though. The job is about customization and using, you know, making your own kind of, you know, making your own rotation of things you want to use. And I just, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm sure, like, if they had to or if they wanted to, they could make it work. But I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about that. I'm still holding out for Dancer.
Everyone is, right? Dancer would be amazing. I would like to be a muscly Roganin with a Mog head that just runs around and punches people to get them healed up, dude.
Oh man, when they announced Dancer in 11, that was what I was thinking. I was like, oh man, we're gonna have Galaga Dancers. I'm done with this game. And then Dancer came out and we played it, and I was like, oh my, this is the best job in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Dancer. I remember I was at that fan fest, they announced Scholar, and they're like, check this out, you can like AoE gravity, and everyone was like, holy shit. Like, everybody lost their mind. It was great.
I really don't know how it's going to be weird. I mean, with I guess Heaven's Word, and they added in the 3 different jobs: 1 DPS, 1 healer, 1 tank. It felt right, like it worked out. DPS got their moment of glory where they got insta queues for everything, and tanks and healers kind of had to wait a little bit longer. Whatever, it's all right. If they release 2 DPS, those DPS will never see a dungeon.
Yeah, I feel like that's just bad for everybody. They need to at least have 2 jobs that are different roles. And I don't, like, Blue Tank, like, I could see maybe, like, for something, just to be something different, right? We don't have, like, a magic tank. And so that I could see them doing. But I'm secretly hoping that they're like, oh, hey, by the way, like, Dancer Healer or something, you know, something. Because it feels weird, especially with the recent, you know, news coming out about their budget for 4.0. That they'd only have 2 jobs, like, that feels weird to me.
It would imbalance everything. And I mean, I wouldn't, from a developer standpoint, I would understand 2 jobs because Ninja was a pain.
Yeah.
But in terms of the queuing balance, you're gonna do 2 jobs. It's gonna be an issue no matter what you pick.
Yeah, it is going to be an issue. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. But I mean, at this point, no matter what they do, they're going to have an issue somehow, unless if they overdo it and they overkill it and they create a new system that kind of works and makes it all work out. I mean, technically you could, like, hey, I have a tank friend and I have a healer friend. All right, I can do the dungeon now. But you couldn't go into, like, Duty Finder and do it.
It'll be nice if they do decide to go forward with having the new job start at 50 instead of 30. Because I mean, people will be getting to that newer stuff sooner with them. But I think it's important to note too with that. You know, let's say they add Blue Mage tank. And everyone's be like, oh, I love Blue Mage and all these other games. They have had no tanking experience in 14, and they jump on that. That's not going to be good.
Well, Dark Knight, all right, you kind of run into that same scenario, right? Yeah, everyone was like, DPS Dark Knight. Oh, tank? I hate it. Now it's the #1 damn tank in the game. Okay, just kidding. Paladin is. I didn't say that. For a lot of
people, I would recommend when Stormblood hits. And I don't know if... I would assume at some point we're going to get another deep dungeon for 4.0. But I would recommend, like, if you're easing into one of these new jobs, it's not a role that you've played, or even if you've played the role a lot, just run some Palace of the Dead. Just, you know, level up slowly a little bit, kind of, you know, work your way into the rotations and stuff, and you know, of course, who knows what queues will be like, you know, for that when 4.0 hits, but you'll be the only person trying to do it. But
yeah, it's going to be like the new jobs every single time. You go into Palace of the Dead. 2 of, like, each job in there each time. God damn it. Yeah, no, I didn't say Dark Knight's #1. I'm gonna retract that question. Okay, so I guess I'll go back to real quick, just the Final Fantasy XIV community. I want to ask you kind of one big final question about the Final Fantasy XIV. Actually, you know what? Let's make 3. We'll make them quick. First,
from 1 to 3.
1 to 3. Yeah, we'll do that. I was looking at the document again, and I felt like I should ask questions anyways. Your opinions. We're gonna start off negative. What's the worst thing about the Final Fantasy XIV community? And I'll start with you, Fusion. Just in general.
In general, because the game is more popular than 11 was. There's a lot more, I think, word of mouth. It's you see it more. There's a lot more new people coming in, and also I think, we talked a little bit about that percentage of negativity, right, with the subreddit. It's just people being assholes, like just for no reason other than to be an asshole. Or it's, I've played this game for so long, I can skip Soar, I'm better than you. Stuff like that. It's just like, okay, cool, I have a green sprout above my head. What do you want me to do?
Right.
And going ahead too, I mean, the reverse of that best thing. I mean, there are some also really awesome people. So it's a very like night and day situation. There's a little bit of gray, but it's really, you either have like the super awesome players or there's like the really like jerk players. I think, and that's the good and bad, I think, of the whole community.
Yeah, no, you got super extremes on both sides.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Reseph, we'll start off negative with you again. You can turn that into a positive thing. What's the worst thing, if you had to say, about the Final Fantasy XIV community?
It's pretty similar. There's a disconnection in the community. It's because we have Duty Finder and we have all these random grouping things. We have a disconnection. In 11, you grew up with like a family of people, or you play along people you knew. You would spend time trying to find a group to XP with for 3 minutes, and then they disband. But
yeah.
In 14, it's just all these people that just don't care about other people because you play with them once, you don't play with them again, and then they think that they can act out and just act, kind of dickish. And you see that not a lot, but you see that enough that people on the subreddit complain about. The community overall in the game is kind of not as nice as they thought would be. And personally, I go on Duty Finder every day. I don't see a lot of terrible stuff, but you see it, and you see it far more than I've seen in 11. But compared to Rainbow Six is, that's a community. I play Rainbow Six as well. That's far worse. But I mean, 14 is like, there's that disconnect, and you don't have a tight-knit family anymore in this MMO.
Yeah, it's kind of going away from that, especially with the crossover party finder and things like that. I feel, and I'm going to be a little bit selfish with it, I feel like the Twitch side of the community adds in a lot more of that global community between everybody. But, I mean, you still have a big, vast amount of people in it, but it's not huge. Like, Final Fantasy XIV is not a popular game to stream. Like, it gets its highest numbers when some random big streamer wants to come in there and say, hey, I'm streaming it now. That's when you get good numbers for Final Fantasy XIV. It rarely ever gets good numbers for streaming it. And that's just kind of how it is. But did you say the positive thing, Reseph? The most positive thing?
Oh, we covered positive as well, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. What's the most positive thing?
Ahead.
Yeah, he jumped ahead. So we'll let you take out the bad taste and put some good taste in there.
It's a combination of the dedicated players, like Fusion here has been a player and he's running a community as well. It's dedicated people like that you see. So it's like Twitch people and players and people who are just really dedicated to the game. Even if they get tired of the game, people come back. A lot of people come back and just keep playing and playing, and they enjoy it, and they form these communities, and it's nice to see this. Like, there's bonds. It's a bit different from disconnection, but you get bonds, stuff like that. And between all of it, you have people who are really nice and act out, and a lot of that comes in like from 11. Like, you have, because 11 people grew into 11 and then to 14, you have the subset of 11 people who are just like, really, they know, like, maybe like want to say MMO cultures and how to. The Japanese taught us, like, in 11, like, you line up for events, and it now it's just like, it's part of who I am. So in 2.0, when 2.0 launched, in the beta, there was the quest in Ul'dah where the quest would be backlogged, and people lined up, and it's like politeness, like that little culture. It's in the MMO, so it's sort of like other big MMOs, like maybe Guild Wars. It's sort of like Guild Wars 1 didn't really have a direct background people came from with a specific culture that you were ingrained to. So, 14 has this subset of of old players.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting because he also has a same amount of people who are new players who are complete dicks, and they get on their behemoth mounts and they sit on the quest.
Man.
Yeah, it's huge. But I mean, like, yeah, I do see that a lot, and I think that actually comes out a lot within the creative and RP community within Final Fantasy XIV, which is a lot huger than it is in other MMOs. I feel like a lot of people have respect, and for example, when the Stage Reborn stuff happened, I can't believe how much respect they got when they were doing their big event at New Year's.
Yeah.
People didn't completely destroy them, which I thought people would just go in there and troll and be a complete asshole the entire time, but that didn't happen. So it's really awesome to see that kind of stuff within the community. Okay, so I'm going to save the last question here for after viewer questions. I'm just going to skip past that for a second. We did 2 questions here. I figured we could jump a little bit into viewer questions and predictions in the last question I have here. And I'm not going to ask this in any particular fashion or order or whatever. It's just going to be whenever they submitted it. I'm just going to ask that question. First one is for me. Ain't Callie, question, what happened to your hair? Is there something wrong with my hair? And do you guys know, is there something wrong? Did I do something that made it messed up? Does it look awful? Come on,
Looks
guys.
fine to me. I mean, I don't know what their
I can't
problem
remember
is.
what did you have at FanFest? I can't remember. It was,
It was about the same. There's
I
not
was
much
gonna say, it
difference
doesn't
to
look
it.
any different than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Whatever, man. I think my hair's fine, dude. I do. Sometimes I'll have it over. It look more gentlemanly or whatever. But that's when I have the long hair that's growing up. But I got a haircut recently, so screw you, dude. Just kidding, man. You're cool. Don't leave me. I have another question here for everyone from Karuto Gale. I heard that games like League of Legends and some shooting games have like big tournaments, but I've never played these games. Why can't Final Fantasy XIV have tournaments like PvP or some content? This is actually a very good question. It's not completely related to discussion that we've had.
Yeah.
But you're right, and it can't because I think the systems just really aren't there to have that kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and just speak up for my own opinion. You guys can tell me what you think afterwards, because I just really want to say my bit on this. When you have a spectator mode, you can't, that's awesome. But when you have it refined to just one server, that's not awesome, because you can't have real tournaments. You don't have that enough of a player base going in there to do that kind of tournament. And this is kind of related a little bit to you, Reseph. You're going to go do a PvP tournament soon, all right? Mm-hmm. Over at EU FanFest. And so that's awesome. When I was there at NA FanFest, I got destroyed and I was an idiot on stage, which, whatever, it happens. But when that happened, that felt fun. That felt legitimately good. But you can't really have that right now because there's issues with PvP in the game currently that kind of make people not inspired to host these things. And the people who are inspired to do it are in such a small community that limiting it to one server is not going to allow it to happen. But that's just my thoughts. Reseph, do you have thoughts you want to throw in for that?
I mean, yeah, that's the biggest problem is that it's a specific server for that kind of stuff. You can't organize a community. You can organize the server, but you can't organize a community. But they're getting better. We got spectator mode. How recent was that? 2 patches ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's new. And I think, I mean, it's hard. I mean, you see people talking about on Reddit about why isn't 14 a big Twitch name, and on Reddit people just say because it's not interesting to watch MMO typical quests, and people seem to lean towards like PvP because it's all player based stuff. So it's like we're getting there, and we've got a lot of good spectator modes new, and we're getting, I think the rumor or it's confirmed that we're getting a new PvP type in 4.0.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
That'll be at EU FanFest.
Whatever that, right? That could be something new.
It'll be Blitzball, but
Oh man, yeah, that's
it'll be Blitzball.
I was rooting for that at
Blitzball. PvP
Blitzball.
Blitzball.
Yeah. We
Okay.
my free company leader is already deciding on who's going to run the Blitzball team, and they were competing between who would run it. Yeah, we're excited
Alright.
for it. It's happening.
Oh my god, I can't see it. But how are you going to prevent that from turning into like Lords of Verminion?
They've learned from Triple Triad, so
Okay. All
They're
right.
getting
What you do is you take a play out of the book from the KOTOR MMO, right? The Star Wars: The Old Republic. In there, they had like a PvP roulette kind of thing where there was two, they're just areas where it's, traditional PvP, but then they had something called Hut Ball, which was like a game where you had to, score points and stuff like that. Make a general like PvP roulette.
Mhm.
Have Feast, unranked Feast probably, right? You don't want to have anybody like super annoyed that they lost because of a roulette. Maybe a frontline or something, but then throw like Blitzball in to mix it up. So it's not just like, going after each other. Add something else in there to mix it up. We're getting swimming, right? We've got the Final Fantasy X costumes and minions, right? Which Yoshida said there was a reason for that. Might have been swimming, or it could be that we're getting Blitzball. I think it's very likely that we could see Blitzball.
All right.
I'm thinking we had a concept art in 2.0, and it was a castle being attacked by players.
Yes.
I'm thinking that'll be it, and we're gonna get Blitzball as the next Lords of Verminion.
Don't say the next Lords of Verminion.
That could be a new Gold Saucer thing. But yeah, there was that concept art of almost like
Siege.
Siege would be amazing. Yeah.
And that would fit in real well with, I think, the kind of theme of 4.0 or potentially maybe 5.0. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Hopefully that inspires people to be more competitive within the game and then get into these like little things like Feast and everything else. And Feast would be like, I love Feast, by the way. I have a lot. Reseph, you have fun with Feast? Do you enjoy it at all?
I do. I last season I was bronze, so I submitted my bronze to FanFest, and they're like, "No, you're not coming into the tournament." So now I'm gold, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, I just got an email. It's like, "Bam, you're in." I didn't have a team. I just submitted myself, and a dash is my team name, and they're like, "Oh, you're in." I was like, "Cool." But Feast is fun. It never gets boring. My free company leader, Angelus, is like one of the top PvPers I've seen. I mean, he's in the ranking right now. So I learned from him. He's a summoner. I'm a summoner. We like to blow things up. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys play Summoner now, but Summoner was ridiculous before they nerfed it in PvP. They had a nerf Death Flare and the other thing for Feast. But before that, Summoner was like, you just blow everything up. And it was
it's pretty amazing. I mean, that's the same reason like I like playing Machinist in PvP, because you delete people if you get just the right setup and the right timing with everything. But now I've been trying Paladin with it, and that's pretty fun, just kind of controlling the map. And it's really fun. Feast is so much fun if you like get into it. And you just accept the fact that you're just in there having fun, trying to be a little bit competitive, and not in there and getting angry. Oh, I can't believe this guy cheats. That's the only reason he won. If you start doing that stuff, you're not going to have fun with PvP.
I mean, it's so different in PvP, because it's like I love fighting alongside a paladin or a warrior in PvP, because paladins could control and warriors are just like destroying things, and it's just a whole different mindset. It's like you love playing alongside these different jobs.
I know she didn't say Dark Knight.
Well, before they buffed Dark Knight's little circle AoE, is like, what's the purpose of you?
What do you do?
Yeah. But I mean, like, if you guys want to get into it, please, like, start getting into it. I would love to see PvP make a huge comeback and be somewhat competitive in 4.0. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think Square, from the higher level of Square HQ, is trying to push for that. I think Square is...
With the calling time stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I think Square is telling them to do that, and I think the tournaments at FanFest are the way to get the population to... And they hired some big Twitch streamer for EU FanFest.
Joe. Yeah, they brought in Joe Never.
Oh, no, that's different.
Some huge Dota 2 gamer.
Oh.
Celebrity for EU FanFest. So their Square HQ is trying to push out PvP, and I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, because I mean that's something to do kind of on the side, and we've had discussions on the show about PvP plenty, and the discussion usually tends into, well, the game just wasn't made for it, and so the systems just really aren't there compared to other MMOs. Like WoW started off, it's a competitive, you fight each other. That's like kind of how WoW was made, Horde versus Alliance. But this is a little bit different. But it seems like they're turning the gears in that motion, and hopefully with a system rework in 4.0, it's going to make it even better.
They're getting there. I mean, coming from an 11 background, Square has never been a PvP, or Final Fantasy MMOs have never been a PvP game, and I feel like they're getting into it with 14 a little better. It feels weird that they're pushing it as hard as they are to me. It's like when Lords of Verminion came out, and then like a month later they put out like little weird like 10-second like commercials showing off certain like various minions doing Lord. I'm like, why would they do that now?
That was paid advertising too, I think.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing when those came out. But yeah, I mean, it's just all of a sudden like within this past year, it's just like, yeah, PvP, and it's like, okay, like is there's nothing else with the game that you want to promote right now. It's just this big weird PvP push, which I mean, look, I mean, that's if they wanted, they have numbers and data that I don't have, right? But it seems weird to me. But again, though, I'm not super huge into PvP.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels weird that all is just out and like all of a sudden. I think PAX East is when they started it. It's just like, yeah, PvP, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a weird transition, but hopefully that means just good things. I guess all I'm hoping for. So in the end, it still means good things for PvP in the game. And they have a separate team away from the raid team, so the raid stuff doesn't get changed. They keep going with what they're doing and hopefully make that better in its own ways. And then they have a little bit of extra money that was spent towards the PvP side to increase replayability, because that's what PvP really adds to the game.
Right, yeah.
Okay, that was a good question. Took us a little bit longer to answer that one, but all right, we got this other question was already answered. Actually, 2 of these questions were kind of already answered. Okay, yeah, and talking about Stormblood, yeah. Hey, Brady Beard, hey guys, isn't there a date in the near future when there will be talking more information about Stormblood? Next weekend is like a huge bit of information is going to be out there. EU FanFest, and I would suggest getting that information however you can. If you can't afford the stream that they're putting out there, don't get it. But if you can, then why not? I'll be watching it just because I feel like I need to. Because I really want to see the look on a lot of people's faces when they announce Blue Mage. But it's gonna be interesting. There's a lot of cool stuff that should come out of that. And I mean, it's the final big, convention that they'll be announcing at. Then they're just live letters from there.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be there. Reseph will be there. I'll be live tweeting it. I actually just bought like a little Bluetooth mobile keyboard thing. I will be tweeting a lot or trying to, sell signal, depending. But I mean, we'll be covering it. Really good over at Gamer Escape. I know there'll be a live thread over on the subreddit too. I'm sure talking about everything that's coming out. So
yeah, I'll be over there as well. Just live threading it, however you want to call it. Yep. Yeah,
we'll have we'll have FanFest. We'll have a couple live letters. We'll have maybe a little thing at PAX East. For 3.0, they had they showed off the benchmark and they introduced Palace of the Dead. So we'll get a little bit, but then we'll it'll be at E3. I'm sure it'll just be like, okay, it's out in like 3 days. That's it, So we'll get a little bit more after FanFest, but not much.
Right. And then the other question here is from Greg Qual, I think is how you say it. I think we kind of talked about this a little bit. That a lot of people use Palace to kind of level up, and Square Enix kind of figured that out. Do you think that's a possible reason why they would put 2 DPS in Stormblood? We talked a little bit about it. I don't know. I just don't think Palace of the Dead is good enough reason where it's okay to release 2 DPS.
No, I think 2 DPS is completely independent of there being just Palace of the Dead. Like that even exists. I think it's completely separated.
Yeah, I mean, I get that because Palace of the Dead is great for different things, but you have people who are always going to be going through the story, always doing dungeons, so you got to have something. You got to have them to have, all right, so I'm doing the main story quest, All right, here we go, we're up. Oh, I got to do a dungeon now? All right, well, I'm logging off because I have to wait an hour to get into the dungeon. I don't expect that's ever going to happen because there are going to be a ton of people. Of course, you can go through your jobs, your tanks. If you have play a tank originally, yeah, sure, but likely you play a DPS, and this is all DPS that will be having an issue, not just the 2 new DPS. All DPS will run into this issue where they will just not be able to get into these dungeons unless if they just know people, and that puts people at this brick wall of hoping to find a tank or a healer to kind of just let you go in with their dungeon, and that they're going to stop leveling up so they can help you out. Sometimes people don't want to be interrupted. So I mean, you see people in the subreddit over the last probably 2 years ago, people who came from different MMOs and played 14, and they're not new to MMOs, but they're new to 14, and they're like, 20 minutes to wait? I'm just not going to play this anymore. And it's like 20 minutes is 20 minutes, but I mean, yeah.
That's the biggest issue with Feast. If we went back to the PvP discussion, it's just like I love to stream it, I love to play it, and feel like I'm having a lot of fun because I do have a lot of fun. But when you're waiting for 30, I'll give you a great example. I streamed it on Thursday. I waited 60 minutes in queue as a paladin.
What?
As soon as I got in, the healer dropped out. It's just like I just spent 60 minutes in queue to get into a match that would be impossible to win.
Yeah,
this was this past week too?
Yeah, this was Thursday, and this was during prime time, which I thought was prime time, which was like I don't know, I think 6:30 Pacific time.
Yeah.
And that's like pretty much the best time, I would think, to do any kind of PvP
Everybody's
stuff.
doing front lines and stuff, I guess, now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Front lines is huge, yeah. I did Feast last night. 4 versus 4 ranked was like half an hour wait. But on Ether, are you on Ether?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Oh, you are. The biggest problem with Ether is we have no healers. As soon as a healer queues for Feast, it pops. But that's what I've been saying. It's the healers. Like we're lacking healers. And I have a Scholar. But I'm never gonna Scholar PvP. I mean Feast.
I don't want to. I think that's probably how a lot of people feel. Is like, I don't want to heal this. I want to kill people. I want to go in there and hit people. I don't want to sit there because you can't do any DPS as a healer because you can't have cleric stance. So it's like you go in there, you're just trying to keep people alive. You have to want to just keep people alive and run around and try to stay in the right zone where you don't die and your friends can help you out. And it's, I don't know.
You gotta not get frustrated by people running out of your line of sight. It's like, stop running away.
Yeah, and not standing in your bubble. Yeah.
One of my favorite things I saw after 3.5 is I did a 72 queue for, I think we ended up in like Caesar chat or something, whatever. But we're in there and there's no healers. There's a summoner. And somebody's like, oh man, we really need a healer. And the summoner says, nope. And he's like, you can't fool me. I know how Arcanist works.
Wait a minute, is that me?
Maybe you're just like get there.
No, different data centers.
I always queue into frontline as a summoner, and like we have no healers. There's like 5 seconds left for the countdown. I'm like, I'll switch to Scholar.
Fine.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think that it would be a ridiculous move, and they would have to introduce some sort of new system to make it to where it's not horrible, and I can't think of what it would be if they released 2 DPS. Yeah. So we'll see.
I mean, we know Red Mage is strict DPS, so we know they're not creating a new role type. It's sort of like, well, we're sticking to Duty Finder.
Yep. All right, and so we got another question here.
Oh, God.
Oh, you don't want to answer it?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
White Moogles wants to know what your thoughts are on jump potions, man.
I think they're fine, and I think people need to stop being so like those little snowflakes about it.
Special snowflakes about
Special
it.
snowflakes.
Oh man, the subreddit on that topic is just all over the place.
We actually broke the news on that too at E3. We talked to Yoshida about because we talked about story progression. A lot of the flack that they got for Heaven's Word was it was story gated. Granted, a lot of that was from like other outlets that don't play 14 a lot that had to review Stormblood, and so they had, so like, oh, this is so bad. And so he's like, yeah, we might do like a jumping potion. And so that I was amazed at like how quick that blew up on Reddit. Mm-hmm. But
I mean I'm okay with it because the modern era of gaming nowadays is get things done quickly and play the game and enjoy it and don't wait around for stuff. I mean, it fits the gaming culture nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, it works. I think it should be fine. I just want, in the end, your leveling experience was how long ago? Years ago? From Heavensward, and you just repeat it over and over again. Sure, that's fine, but some people want to have a job and have lots of other things in the game that isn't just doing redundant stuff that isn't even remotely skill based. I mean, yeah, sure, I can get to level 60 fastest. I'm really cool because of that. I mean, it's cool. Yeah. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. You can speed run up to 60 all you want, but that's not something that I would consider a major point within the game that they should focus on forcing people to go through.
It's like Reseph talked about, people coming in from other games like, 20 minutes for a queue. I don't have time for that. Well, and now jumping potions, right? It's okay. I have a friend that wants to come play. Oh, we can't play together. All we could do is like Palace of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And I can't get up to where you are and do any of this other content. Why should I keep playing? And so that's why they want to do the jumping potion. It's so that people that are already playing can bring in their friends and they have incentive to actually stay with the game. And I think that's fine. Any bad player, like everyone's like, people are going to use jumping potions and we're going to have all these bad players. We have bad players already. Like that's not going to change. It's like that percentage, right? That percentage of toxic players and that percentage of just like people that aren't that great at the game. It's going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just have more people playing.
Yeah. But okay. I have one more question. If you guys have any last viewer questions, now's the time to ask it. But I wanted to go through this last question here. Just in general, what do you guys feel like is currently a void in the Final Fantasy XIV as a community? Like, what's missing? What does Final Fantasy XIV need that other communities might already have? And I'll start with Eureka. Do you know?
Yeah, I've got the answer for that. I just tweeted this week. I really miss the comics of 11. 11 had a lot of comics online. People would draw comic series. Level Up, I think, was one. Yeah. I miss those. I have a hard time finding any 14 comics.
There's some. I see them every once in a while in the subreddit, but I don't see it super often.
Yeah, I mean, like comic series that just go on forever.
Yeah.
Oh man, I miss those. Like Level Up. I think he's still around. He did a Kickstarter a few years ago for like physical copies. It's just like, they're such good times.
Yeah. I'm going to do a second to kind of promote some other content creators. People like, I guess the Crucible is one, and other magazine, but Moogle Post. All right, so like when this stuff is actually out there, these places are awesome. They're absolutely amazing because they add these little media avenues for people to do that stuff. And when people kind of combine together and like, hey, here's a whole bunch of stuff, you can submit your comics to me all the time, then they can start picking up some traction and maybe they'll start doing it more. So shout out to those guys. Fusion, what's the void?
Oh man, it's hard because there's a lot of people right now, a lot of content creators that, a lot of them do different things, or they have a show but they do it a very different way or cover things differently. I really can't think of anything specific. I mean, comics is a good point. Not to steal it, right? But there's not really a lot of series. We had one of our podcast hosts, Bryn. He for a while he did a Red versus, was it Red Mage, Blue Mage? I forget. He's gonna kill me if he sees this. I forget the name of the comic. But for a while we had a comic running for a little bit, and then he just didn't have the time for it anymore. But it'd be nice to see a series. I know Denmo does a lot of videos and stuff, so it's not like there's a complete void in like the machinima or whatever you want to call it for that stuff. Man, I can't really think of any like a big noticeable void because there's so many people that are doing so many different things right now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I feel like a lot of different types of media are covered within Final Fantasy 14 because it's grown to that point. I feel like maybe there should be a little bit more machinima, some more stuff that could be out there, because it would be awesome to see more of it and more professional stuff. And I think that people who are doing it are doing a great job, but there's just so few amount of people who are actually doing that in some of those sectors. With podcasts, there's a good amount of podcasts out there. You have the Asshole Podcast, Limit Break Radio, piece of shits, guys.
Careful, they're not the shit podcast. That's a different podcast.
Oh, apparently there's another podcast, the shit podcast. And you have all kinds of different types of people who do their own podcast their own way, and I think it's absolutely awesome that you can do it. Like Aetherite Radio, you guys come from like the Gamer Escape side of everything too, right? I mean,
we actually, funny enough, when we started Aetherite Radio, that was actually us with Aniro. He reached out about a month after 14 was announced back in 2009. He's like, we should team up and do a podcast. I'm like, awesome. And then 1.0 happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that we had kind of just, faded out of it.
Yeah.
And then he came back to me one day and he's like, hey, I want to bring Limit Break Radio back. I'm like, that's cool. At one point, we actually had a giant Aetherite Radio network planned, right? We had we had Aetherite Radio. We had a role play show that went for a little bit. But we had 4 or 5 different types of shows planned or something. And because 1.0 did what it did, that all fell apart. And so when he came up, he's like, yeah, I want to bring Limit Break Radio back. I'm like, that's cool, but I also don't want to have 2 shows that
do the same thing.
They would talk about news, right? I don't want to have 2 shows that are both talking about similar things, that I want them to be different. And he's like, well, I want to be able to do my own thing. And I'm like, after 1.0, right? I'm like, I just don't get I love LBR.
Okay, that's okay.
Awesome guy. But I was just like, I don't know if I want to host that, right? And I don't want to have that kind of redundancy. Mm-hmm. And so he went off. He did LBR, and they're doing really great. I mean, shout out to them. They just launched Checkpoint Radio, a gaming and esports thing that played in Denver on ESPN the other night. That's huge for them because I know a lot of us are doing this as a hobby. But Aniro, he's radio is his career. Yeah. And so that's awesome that he was able to do that. So big shout out to all the guys over at LBR for that. So
yeah.
But
it's funny. Those guys are absolutely hilarious, and I know they've been a great point of conversation for the subreddit too, in their own way. I still remember that whole poster, and it had this whole comparison thing between me and them, and I'm like, why does this exist? It just doesn't make any sense. You're completely comparing two different things, or at least I felt like, because
it's a lot of people that they don't know, right? They think, oh, a podcast is a podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same people that think they'll do like Culling Time, and they think Shannon and Aya are the ones that removed Feast Chat, right? Like, yeah, it was them. They went to Japan, and they're like, let me just grab one of this computer, I'll just code this out. Yeah, that was totally them directly that are like, it's just people that and a lot of it comes back to people don't have time for anything, right? They don't want to sit in queues. They want instant gratification. And a lot of times that doesn't give them the time to actually just think logically for a couple of seconds before typing something. Yeah. And that's where we are right now.
I gotcha, yeah. But shout out to all the content creators. And by the way, Fusion, I want to make sure I do a quick shout out to a lot of stuff that you're doing. You're getting a lot of the content creators together, which I've been a part of, and you've been doing that roundup every single week. And I thought that's absolutely amazing, that the more people out there that kind of get together to make sure that we aren't being completely, I don't know what the best word to say it is like that we aren't being ignorant of each other is a good way to do it. I think that's pretty awesome. And going out there and just supporting everyone and keeping the content creation community going is super important to keep the game healthy.
It's like I said, I mean, there's a lot of different people doing a lot of different stuff. And so, instead of just having everybody, running their, and especially today, it's a lot more, for some people, a lot more competitive, right? Like back then, in 11, it's like, oh, I have a podcast. We just talk about stuff. Oh, cool. We got one too. All right, awesome. But now it's like, I stream and I have a show and I have a Patreon. I want to make money off of this, so right. Don't listen to any of those other guys. And so it's a little more cutthroat for some people. But
yeah, no.
And it's funny too, because we started this. It's an idea I've had for a while, just to have more of a sense of community between a lot of the content creators. And we started doing the content creator roundup over on gamerescape.com. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. We're doing it every Saturday. Oh, it's shit. I need to post that. It's Frosty's fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. Yeah.
It's all his fault. Yeah, but every week we're gathering, podcasts. We have, the Crucible, Moogle Post will be on there. Basically just, people that are doing shows, doing regular YouTube videos or, written stuff. We're just giving them exposure, and it was really cool. I want to say after the first week we did it, I got a message from one of the guys that hosts Maelstrom Radio. He's like, hey, I wanted to ask you a question. Like, I know you've been doing this for a long time. Like, how do you get like exposure, or how do you, promote yourself and stuff? And I'm thinking, I just started this thing that's like perfect. Like, get in on this. Like, I'll throw your links out and stuff. And so that was really cool. Like, it meant that there was almost a need for it in a sense to help people. And I think the second one got posted on Reddit, and there were a lot of comments like, I had no idea like half of these things even existed, which is awesome to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely check it out. I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of different stuff. Whether you want to watch a video, listen to a podcast in MP3, or just like read stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. And if you guys do any of your anybody out there listening, if you make your own content, we're not just looking for like, I stream on occasion, like that's cool, but like that's not what we're looking for.
Right.
But if you run a show, or if you are writing like weekly, or something regular content for 14 that's not just like you streaming on Twitch, let me know. Get in touch with me, and we can get you on the roundup.
Okay, that's awesome, man. And Reseph, I do want to go ahead and say thank you very much for being absolutely amazing. I know we give you so much shit about the subreddit, and it's constant and it's normal, and people will assume, oh, this subreddit's not great, it's because this subreddit's shitty, and that stuff kind of comes back to you every once in a while. But I appreciate everything that you put into it, because there are subreddits out there that are complete crap, but you have made Final Fantasy XIV subreddit something worth going to. And it's actually, you can't control people, right? You can't do that. You can't be the super big asshole that says, I only want content that I like in this subreddit, because then you don't have a good subreddit for a game like Final Fantasy XIV. And I appreciate everything that you do, man. I just want you to make sure you understand that.
Thank you for having me, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So here, I think we have one last question, and then we'll get into the end here. Allura Dracor, I think that's how you say it. Has anyone asked about the speculator and jobs getting more or less skills in Stormblood? meaning how do we feel about that, I guess. And I mean, some jobs have so many buttons and debuffs to monitor as it is, so another 10 levels having possibly 4 or 5 more buttons is kind of nerve-wracking. So I guess that question really leads up into, how do you guys feel about the rework of the system and them kind of probably making it more simplistic going into 4.0?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what changes are coming to the battle system. I'm hoping that we get a little more information at the EU Fan Fest about that. But we do know from Marco has translated so many interviews for us over the past couple months. I'm trying to remember which one it was from, but I think it was a JP Fan Fest interview. The way that they were talking about it is basically, yes, stuff will be getting, every job is going to be getting new abilities and new skills, but with that and they'll be changing some skills or adjusting or removing. With all of these changes, your rotations, as they are now, like in terms of like number of actions, should stay about the same. So if you're worried that like, oh my God, I'm gonna need like another hotbar or something, you should be all right. I think right now they realize that a lot of people are it's ability and bloat, and so they want to make sure that it's not getting more complicated. And so that's something that they mentioned, I think, was it a couple months ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other part of this is Yoshida talked about how the bar for Heavensward, the skill rotation, was a little too high for players. They think they made the rotations a little too high, so they'll be bringing that down a little bit, and I think that'll help as well in terms of also trimming some abilities in there. But bringing the bar down so the players at the bottom will be kind of higher. And then the people who are really good will be, still really, high up, but the bar comes a bit lower.
Yeah. I think that's not a bad thing to do. You shouldn't have like a huge gap. Like, it shouldn't be absolutely ridiculous. Not in an MMO, but if you play like Dota 2, right? People who first start playing Dota 2 are like, what am I even doing? That's okay. That's strictly competitive. But when you're going into a game where people are working together to try to kill stuff, you should have people who are really good, but it shouldn't be to the point to where you can't play with these people because they're not like even remotely acceptable when they're kind of at the lower tier of the skill level. But okay, that's just my thoughts on that too. Guys, when we're closing out, I always want to make sure you guys do your shout outs to everything that you want to shout out for. So Fusion, I'll start with you. What shout outs do you have to give out to everybody?
Just shout out to everybody, all my co-hosts over at 8th Rate Radio. Keep an eye out. We'll be doing FanFest live tweeting. We'll be posting wrap-ups and everything like that. I got to figure out who's going to do that since I'll be there, but I'll be tweeting from Germany. So just keep an eye out for that. We'll be launching our new website hopefully in the next couple months. Keep an eye out for that. Looking off in the distance, E3 we'll probably have a big Stormblood presence, maybe PAX East. If there is stuff there, we'll definitely be covering it. So just keep an eye out on the site, check out the wiki, and if you're one of those people that are posting Google Docs on Reddit, put it in our wiki.
There you go. Reseph, what kind of shout outs you got, man?
I just want to say thank you to our whole mod team. I mean, we've got close to a dozen people in our mod team. It's not just me. So we're there like basically 24/7, and big shout out to the whole team. They're really talented. They've done a great job. ENA is responsible for getting our media interviews started. Time Boundary was one of the guys who created the guides that did the, I'm new to 2.3. How do I get leveled up? He was the guy that did all of that. And he's a moderator now. Fusion, you mentioned Dr. Mog was part of your podcast.
Yeah, for a little bit. He was a mod on I know for a little bit.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, he was a mod for the subreddit for a number of years. I don't think he plays 14 anymore though.
No.
But yeah, I mean, just big shout out to the whole mod team. They've done a great job. There's good days, there's bad days. I've never had a mod quit. I mean, we've gone through some rough times, but we've never had a mod quit. So we're in a pretty good spot. Yeah, we'll be in Germany as well. We'll have a live thread up. I think any pictures going up will probably Gamer Escape. I'll probably tweet out some Gamer Escape links because the Reddit wiki and Reddit live threads are not good with pictures. You can't embed pictures in either of those, so it's like
Yeah.
Man, oh man. Yeah, and we've got changes coming. We'll probably redo the whole style sheet for Stormblood. I've got a lot of code changes to make to the bot. On the 11 subreddit, I have a list of streamers on the bottom. I could bring that into the 14 subreddit, but it's going to be a huge list. So there's a lot of changes. We have a big to-do list, but it's too much to talk about right now.
It's fine.
That's about.
I know
it.
how that goes, man. It's all good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both for coming on the show. You guys have been absolutely amazing to listen to. This was a personal show that I wanted to have because I wanted to talk to you guys and kind of get to know more about what you guys do. And I'm really glad we did. Before we leave, I do want to go ahead and do my personal shout outs here. Thank you everybody for watching the show. You guys have been great for coming and supporting the show and just listening to the awesome discussion I think that we've had. And then also thank you to Carrara for collecting the questions, Blizana for the artwork, Andre Kane for allowing me to use his cover for the beginning intro music. And MogTalk next week is going to be a little bit in the air. We'll see how it works out. It will probably be an offline episode if there is an episode. It's going to be a rough week, especially with EU FanFest going on. It feels kind of silly to have a MogTalk almost in the middle of that going on. But we'll see. We'll see, guys. And last little bit here is I want you guys to, I don't know if you have people that you would want to host currently on the Final Fantasy XIV Twitch page, but I usually let the guest pick a host of someone to send viewers to. But I have an idea for someone to send it to if you guys are completely drawing blanks on it.
I see some chat going on talking about 14 hitting a peak in concurrent players.
Yeah.
I don't know if where the numbers are coming from. Is it true 6 million people play 14? Anytime they release numbers, it's always accounts that have been made.
Right.
Always. Yeah. It's not concurrent. It's not. It's always that's how many people have made accounts at any given point.
Yeah.
That's how they do their numbers.
Back in the older day of MMOs, when WoW launched and 11 was around, they used to publish their subscription numbers, but the MMO industry has changed, and now they're doing this total number of people who have created
whatever
an account.
The bigger number is the one.
Yeah. So it's changed. We used to know real numbers. We knew the 11 numbers in 2007, but ever since then we don't know.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I remember when they put that out.
Yeah, so we kind of have to base it on how many people are clearing A9S.
yeah, pretty much. That there's that statistic website with the
what the hell is that called?
Amounts.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's new last year. There's two of them. There's the Japanese one as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember the actual name, so.
Me nuts now.
All right. So any opinions on who we should host, or do you guys want to just shoot it over to whoever?
Nothing from me.
No? Fusion? All right.
I got nothing.
We do have an event that's going on right now.
Oh, you know what? Go to Nariko.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
They got the Love
right.
Made event going on, and she's doing that right now, and she's put a lot of work into it. So we'll send the host over her way. The last bit I'm going to do, before we do a host, we have a credits reel. This is the first time I've ever done a credits reel, but we're going to do that real quick. Then we're going to go to the very ending part of the show and send the host over. And, of course, before we go to the credits reel, we got to do our awkward waving and a little catchphrase here. All right, guys. Remember to be good, to keep cool, and to stay frosty. Come on, do your waving. You guys have to wave. Come on. All right, here we go.